always lovely to see you. We love having you here. This movie, I love the way you got involved in this, and it was the director, Carl Hunt, that came to you and just showed you some Polaroid pictures, and that was enough.
That was more or less enough. I was on the way to the interview to meet the guys, all the guys who made it, and I was very taken with this Frank Cottrell Boyce's script. And on the way there, I thought there was a danger that I might end up in indie hell. Right. So I thought, and I had a couple of ways of avoiding that. One was that I decided I was going to wear something very bright red. Okay. And the other was that I was going to tell them that I never wanted to find myself in a movie where they wobbled the camera and called it truth. Right. So they were immediately like, no, we don't do that. No, this is like... And then he explained what he had in mind. And I was really thrilled by it. I'm really keen on this movie, and I'm really keen on Carl Hunter, who's a first-time director who's brilliantly put this together. And it's a very different kind of British film.
So what was on the Polaroids?
Well, the Polaroids were mostly pictures of Crosby Beach, which is where he and Frank actually live. Very beautiful, but you can tell the sensibility they were very precise and very beautiful. So, you know, you knew that you had a man. There was a man with taste. And incidentally, that Marmite thing, Frank, who wrote the script, had a tendency, when he wanted something further for me to say, he would YouTube me and find things. That's based on a rant of mine on a red carpet at the London Film Festival. Because I seem to be the only person who knows that Canada banned Marmite because it had a secret ingredient. And when they asked him what's the secret ingredient, Marmite said, we can't tell you because it's a secret. And then they banned it. And I immediately suggested a bunch of commercials with me being busted at immigration, which I have been busted twice for Marmite at Heathrow.
Have you?
Who knew? And then a second commercial where I'm strapped to a chair in a cell and they're smacking me around the head and they're trying to get the secret ingredient, and I won't tell them because I'm an Englishman and I'm loyal to Marmite.
I mean, this needs to happen. This needs to happen.
Nobody bought it. But anyway, but this film is something, I mean, it's a really joyful, funny, very, unexpected film, and I'm really keen that they get the chance to make more of them, so I'm out here.
Well, Alan Mellor is a tailor. He has this encyclopedic knowledge. He has his two sons, Peter and Michael, and their life revolves around playing Scrabble, of which he's, you know, quite obviously going to be very good at. Yeah. There is then a row. Yeah. And Michael walks out.
Yeah, 20 years ago, and I've been trying to find him ever since. It's a Scrabble feud, but I think I've identified someone who I'm playing on Internet Scrabble. I think I found him. Because he uses words that only my son Michael would know. He's got the technique, the Scrabble technique, about which I know quite a lot now, that I think I've identified my missing son. That's the plot. But the film itself contains all kinds of stuff, including a wonderful score from Edwyn Collins, who's written all the music for the movie, including 2 songs and Edwyn Collins' new single, which is taken from the movie.
And although, you know, there are moments of sort of darkness within it, it's funny. I mean, as we just saw there in that clip, there are moments of real humour in it.
Yeah, it's very, very funny, and Frank is a very funny guy, and it's a beautiful script, and therefore we were able to attract Tim McInerney and Jenny Agutter and Alice Lowe and Sam Riley, who people will remember from the Joy Division movie. He played Ian Curtis brilliantly. He's a brilliant young man, and he plays my other son. And we have a lot to do together, and it's coming out on June the 14th, which is the Father's Day weekend. So there's a little thing. So.
Well, it's sometimes, always, never, and because he was a tailor, this is the buttons on a jacket. Yeah.
I was told that years ago. The first time I think anyone ever built me a suit, they told me that thing. Sometimes the top button, always the middle button, and are you insane? The bottom button. So yeah, so it's like a tailor's thing. When jackets were 3-button, they're not at the moment. Everything's 2-button, but they'll be back because they always are.
And then we have to remember that rule. Your accent, you have a Liverpudlian accent for this role. When you were in Pride, to get your Welsh accent, you went to Wales and you were recording people. Yeah. Did you have to do a similar thing with this, or did?
Well, I didn't really, because I have quite a long history with Liverpool, and I was at the Liverpool Everyman Theatre with Julie Walters and Pete Postlethwaite and Jonathan Price, resident Willie Russell, Alan Bleasdale, when I was 23. So I lived in Liverpool for quite a long time. But ironically, I invented myself as someone who couldn't do a Liverpool accent while I was working in Liverpool. Right. I just undermined myself. It was only later that I discovered I could do it. So I didn't need to do the research that I did for Pride. Although I was in Liverpool, so I was surrounded by people who were talking. And the producers and the director were from Liverpool. So if there was, they'd say sometimes they did it by Beatles names. They'd come over and say, it's gone a bit George, Bill. So, you know, or it's gone a bit Paul, you know. And so I'd have to, you know, they weren't so keen on, they didn't want it to be too strong because they didn't want the film to be so particularly identified with one particular region. They wanted it to be a bit more.
Well, people have said, you know, it's a bit, you know, that maybe a little bit Ringo, purely because of your love of music.
Well, I am crazy about the Beatles, and crazy about music, and so are the guys who made the music. The guys who made the film used to be in a band, which people will remember, a very highly successful band, which still exists, called The Farm. And Carl was the bass player, and Roy, who's the producer, was the drummer. And they've segued into being... And the singer is the ice cream man in the movie, and the songwriter is the guy who runs the motel in the movie. So they're all in it to some degree. So they've all segued into becoming Hurricane Films, and they're 3 doors down from the theatre that I used to work in when I was 20.
How mad is that?
So it was really quite spooky going back, but nice, you know.
You've said before, I mean, lots of people now have bucket lists, or they think, right, this is my ambition to do this, and you've said in the past that you don't buy into that, that you don't...
Well, it's not that I don't buy into it. Well, I don't really, because I've been so fortunate that people say, what do you want to do now? Well, I have everything I've ever wished for has kind of happened to me, you know what I mean? In terms of my profession and in other ways, I've been most fortunate. But I suppose if there is anything left, then I want to be an action... you know, it's getting a bit late for my action career. And
listen, Daniel Craig's just done his ankle in.
Well,
you could go and save the day there.
Yeah, I know, I'm waiting for a call, but, I mean, you know, I could be his dad or something.
So an action film would be...
I'd like to be an unlikely or an accidental action hero with a superpower. I'd have to have a superpower, because otherwise how's it going to work? You know what I mean?
Powered by Marmite.
Powered by Marmite.
Oh, Marmite Man!
And Yorkshire tea, which is the other thing I smuggle, internationally speaking. But you don't get busted for Yorkshire tea. I mean, I got busted at Heathrow for a big jar. I was trying to impress somebody. I had a big jar, and the bloke took it out.
Is that real?
This is really real.
I can't tell whether you're winding me up.
No, this is really real. And he took it out, and he said, you can't have that. I said, come on, it's Marmite. And they were all, like, laughing. I said, well, can't I decant, you know, into something smaller? They said, there's no decanting of Marmite this side of security. I said, show me that written down. And they were all having a laugh, but they still took my Marmite. But the great thing was the young man who was with me, who was accompanying me through the airport, he was so stricken at my position, he took me to the lounge, and then he came back and he got a bag, and he'd been around every single cafe in Heathrow, and he brought me 33 of those little Marmites that you get.
Bless him.
You know, that you open up, and they got me through the gig. So it all worked out. But that's the second time I've been busted twice for Marmite. Marmite smuggling.
Because at this stage, you're sort of almost compelled to say other spreads are available, other yeasty spreads are available. Yeah, but I don't know whether they are.
I can't believe you're even saying
There's a bit of, I mean, I did a bit of Vegemite, that doesn't count, and there's Bovril.
Well, no, Vegemite, I did actually have to live... I was forced to live with Vegemite for some period in Australia making a movie, and actually, I got along fine. But, you know what I mean? It was OK. But it's never going to take the place of, you know, there's a song in there somewhere. It's never going to take the place of my love. But anyway,
Marmite, my love.
Yeah, but there's more than Marmite to this movie. It's a groovy movie. I'm here, and I'm more than usually bullish about this film.
Do you know what I noticed? Funnily enough, when you sat down and we played the clip, and you've been here lots of times, and every single time,
I know,
you never watch yourself, and you watched yourself.
I know. It's because it's the first time I've ever seen it, and it's not bad actually. No, I mean, but it was just. I am curious. There's certain films you really, you know, and I know what they've done. They've done something really special, and it's a very different kind, a very unexpected kind of British film, and I'm really keen on the whole enterprise, and I just want them to get a chance to make lots more.
Oh, sometimes, always, never. Cinemas, 14th of June. It's always a pleasure.
I adore you. Thank you for coming in.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much.